Alrighty, Mr. Gatekeeper here. Had a request from my buddy 255. Oh God, is it 255 or 225? Forgive me, brother. I know you watching this right now. I'd have to look, but he's been a buddy that's been following my videos for a long time. Well, actually, I think he's one of the first that started following my videos, and like to apologize for not replying back to comments. I'm on my mobile phone here most of the time, and I don't know why in the heck YouTube has not updated their application to allow you to reply back to comments. But I think it's pretty stupid. I don't know why they haven't, but I got to jump on the PC there to reply back to comments. I usually do it about once a month, but I got about 2 or 3 months worth to reply to. But anyway, he was wanting to ask me how do I build and install one of my voltage regulated dead key variables. So this is dedicated to you, brother. Well, first you need a radio, of course. We're going to be doing it on a Cobra 25 LTD. And the same thing applies to a Cobra 29. Unit in 68 and a 66, and probably a few other radios. But alright, here's all the components you need right here. Okay, the main heart of the whole thing is a TIP 29 transistor. TIP 29 transistor. Okay, need a 470 microfarad, 25 volt or greater, 470 microfarad electrolytic. You can use all the way up to 1,000 if you'd like, if you don't have one laying around. And a 100 ohm variable. 100 ohm variable, 100 ohm resistor. I ain't get a lot of sleep last night. 100 ohm resistor. If you don't have a little quarter watt, you can use your 2 watt, whatever. Just try to keep it neat, 100 ohm resistor, you'll need 3 wires. These 2 are for the RF. The last one here is for grounding the actual variable resistor. You can either run off the variable that's already in that you're going to be using. On this one, we're going to use the RF gain pot. I'm not going to install a 500 ohm because I'm actually out of them. I need to order a few. So a 1K, if you don't have a 500 ohm, 500 ohm is going to make that thing smooth, man, to where pretty much the second you start turning that thing up. And I'm going to try a 250 out too. I think a 250 will be even more better. But if you don't have a 500 ohm pot this size, use a 1K. Alright. So we'll be using this RF gain pot right here. And what we'll be doing is we'll be unsoldering it. What I'm going to do is take this right here. And go ahead and take that variable pot out. Just gonna make it easier. Just gonna make it a lot easier to work with. Give me 1 second here. Alright. Go ahead and pop that out for you. Show you right here. Alright. As you see, we have popped the RF gain pot out. Alright. What we're going to be doing is unsoldering these 2 wires, okay, and then soldering these 2 wires back together, putting some heat shrink on it. That's going to leave the RF gain all the way up, because all this is a variable resistor putting resistance to that. Or if you would like to, some people would still like to have their pot to where they can at least set it if they would like to. You could just put another pot in there that we're going to be using for the dead key variable, and just kind of tape this up or put some heat shrink over the parts right here that could touch anything to where it just leaves the knob, and just kind of put it off to the side somewhere in here. But in this case, I'm just going to be unsoldering these two. Let me go ahead and do that without burning myself. Alrighty. Alright, and we will be using this pot right here. So I'm going to go ahead and set this pot to the side. This is the one we'll be using. You're going to take these two wires, like I said, that you just unsoldered from there, and you're going to tie them together. Okay. Alrighty. Let me pick up these wires I dropped here. Go ahead and tie those two wires together, and then we'll go ahead and show you how to tie your electrolytic to your transistor, to your TIP29 transistor, and then we'll go ahead and show you where you're going to tie all this into the board. For a Cobra 25, it's jumper 6 right here. JP6, jumper 6. It's named differently on a 29, but it's in the same spot, same exact spot. Okay, we're going to be putting that whole transistor and everything in these two holes right here, and we're going to be bringing the RF back to this choke right here. Okay, so you're going to be utilizing this and these. Let me go ahead and I've done took the jumper off of this. So I read your comment after I took the jumper off, because this was the next one I was working on. Right here. The first couple of times you do something like this, you could draw you a little circle just to, you know, kind of get you memorizing where it's at, so you won't even have to look next time you pop the top off of 25 or 29 or whatever, you know. I'm trying to like getting a little bit of that flux off there. That's where they're going to be coming back in, the transistor to solder to, right there. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and put these two together and show you the orientation of how they'll be hooked up. Alrighty, this is what we're going to be constructing. This is part of the swing kit, I guess you can call it. A lot of people like to. Part of the swing kit and the heart of the whole dead key variable. Let me get this focused in here. Alrighty. Take a look at your electrolytic. The side that you see the line on, that is your negative side, of negative polarity of the electrolytic. Looking at your transistor, the negative side of this electrolytic needs to be soldered to the right leg of the transistor. The right leg. We're going to keep everything in simple layman terms for this, instead of calling everything base, collector, emitter, whatever. The negative part of this electrolytic solders to the right leg right here. The positive side electrolytic solders to the middle. Alright, the first leg, which is the left leg, we're going to be bending that upwards. Okay, so let's go ahead and bend this and get it soldered to negative leg to the right, positive leg to the middle. Alright, I got my legs bent like that. so that it can sit down on the transistor just like this. Alright, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the soldering iron and I'm going to tin each of these 3 legs with solder. Make sure not to leave the iron on there as long as you have to. Then I'm going to tin these 2 legs on the electrolytic. After I tin both, then I'll actually take my fingers and actually just hold it down there and take the soldering iron and solder both together. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. As you can see, I have it soldered now. Do not cut off this excess trim. We'll need that later when putting it into the board. Now I'm going to take this 3rd leg and I'm going to bend it up. Straight up. This way. I'm actually going to put the actual camera down real quick instead of pressing stop. This is a really quick little process here. Just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to what we're going to do at this point, sorry about that, what we're going to do at this point, it's time to bend these legs exactly the way they need to be bent. So we're going to turn the radio over like this. We're going to sit here and we're going to look at these holes right here where we're going to be soldering it. Here and here. Get the focus in there. And what I'm doing is I'm going to take these 2 legs right here and I'm going to bend them to where they fit perfectly in there. Alright, as you see the way I bent this, so it can fit in there just perfect. Okay, just like that. Alright, now what we're going to do is we are going to solder one of our wires. I cannot remember. Actually, I don't think I told you how long to make those wires. So let's set this to the side and show you this. Alright, when you cut your wire, I'm using some Teflon wire. I like to use Teflon wire to everything I can. Basically, cut your wire long enough to go from right here to the back to up front. Sorry about all this adjusting here. The phone does that and I got other lights on around it. But you soldered one of the 2 longer wires, the 2 of 3, on the 3rd leg, just like that. Go ahead and take your heat shrink, send it through this wire, bring it down. So we can do this with one hand. There we go. I like to try to bring it down about level. About right there is perfect. You don't have to put heat shrink on it, but the reason why I do it is to keep the back of this transistor from touching this heat sink right here. Okay, that's why I do it. So let's go ahead and get that heated up and go ahead and mount this joker. Alrighty, this is very, very, very important.
I ain't gonna say a word.
I ain't talking to you.
I think it's good.
This right here Very important. If you don't do this right, you can blow your final, or even worse. The right leg of the transistor, which is where the negative part of the capacitor is soldered to, goes in towards the back of the radio, like this. Okay? It goes in towards the back of the radio. Alright? Negative part of the resistor, right leg of the transistor, goes into the back. So I'm going to go ahead and stick these in these two holes here, solder it from up underneath, and I will be back. After that point, we'll be installing the second wire, and a lot of people actually solder the second wire from up underneath and then bring it up. I don't do that. What I do is I just go ahead and tie it into this choke right here, and I'll show you that when I come back. Alrighty, got that soldered. Make sure if you got any part of it that's sticking up a good bit, to cut that off with some cutters. You don't want anything shorting out to the bottom of the case. Alright, we'll flip her back over. Alrighty, and this is what we're looking at here now. Okay. Now look down here at this choke right here. It's kind of covered up now that this is on here, but look at this choke right here. You're going to want to stick your soldering iron down in there, move these wires over. Stick your soldering iron down in there and tin that up. Don't leave it on there long, just tin it up. Okay, and that's where we're going to be soldering our second wire. This wire right here. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Alrighty, as you see, ain't the prettiest job, but it definitely ain't a cold solder joint. Alright, we'll solder that wire to that choke. By the way, that is L11. I'm looking at it right now. I believe that's what it says. Yes, L11. That's for the RF is going back that direction that way. So that's L11. Alright, so we got our actual transistor voltage regulator type deal installed, swing kit, whatever, both wires already done. So now we're going to be going up and getting the variable all worked out. Now, like I said, you can use what you want. You can use the dynamite, RF gain, whatever you want. But if you use something that has a 50K pot, that is way too big. Way too big. You're going to need to put a new variable in it. Like I said, 1K or 500 ohm, with my experience, works the best. 500 ohm works the absolute best. But these radios don't have 500 ohm variables, so if you take something off that's got a 50K, put it to the side, grab you a 1K somewhere and put it in. In this particular situation, I'm going to be using the RF gain. Okay. Now do listen to me. If you put this in the squelch, if you put this where the squelch is, you do not, I repeat, do not connect the squelch wires together. Okay, after you unconnect them from the variable, do not connect the squelch wires together. It will leave it in full squelch. When you unconnect the squelch wires, just cap them off with some heat shrink and put them to the side. Alright, so I'm going to get my RF gain knob here. It's 1K. First thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and take my 100 ohm resistor. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and prepare it. What I'm going to do with this, since these leads are so thin, I'm going to bend these leads down on each other on both ends. Okay. The only reason I'm doing that is just to make this pretty much a thicker, more sturdier lead. And I'll show you what I'm talking about after I come back and have it already soldered to the variable. Alrighty. Already got 100 ohm here. soldered, and already got your third wire soldered to that. Put it on some heat shrink, cover up all this right here. I know a lot of you are probably going to ask, well, how do I know which lead to solder this 100 onto? Well, it's really easy. You solder it onto the lead that there wasn't wires on already. Or if you're taking off a squelch knob or something like that, you're soldering it to the lead where the black wire was on. Or if you're using a whole entire new pot and you can't just remember, look at the orientation of how the pot sits in here, okay? And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the lead that's closest to the board, like with this right here, how it's sitting in here. It's the lead that's closest to the board. Alright, you can solder this to any ground you want to inside the box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find me the closest pot this wire can hit of these type of cans right here, okay? And before that, I'm going to take my Dremel, rough that can up just a little bit. You ain't got to do that if you don't want to. The way I do things, solder heats up quicker and solder seems to bond to it quicker when you do that. And I'm going to take that up and pre-tin it with some solder, and then just put this to it and solder it to the closest can. This wire I might have made this wire a little bit too long, actually. Oh yeah, I made it way too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this first. And then I'm going to shorten this wire up. The shorter the wire, the better when you're dealing with RF. Always. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this variable. Before I mount the variable, I need to hook our wires up. Okay, listen to this very carefully. I am looking at these schematics that I drew just for reference over here. Here's the easiest way I do it. You see the negative part of the electrolytic hooks up to the right, you see. Alright, now look at the positive part. Positive part of the electrolytic is hooking up to the middle of the transistor, okay? And the middle of the transistor, if you follow it, is hooking all the way up to the opposite side of the ground. Opposite side of the ground. Alright? So the middle hooks to the opposite side of the ground. Alright, in the middle of this is going to be this right here, actually. So an easier way of seeing that is just do it this way. The left side of this transistor, this is the side we bent up, hooks to the middle of the variable. That's what I actually should have told you first. Do that. Left side, which is going to be the wire we have coming off. Right here, this wire coming off, solders to the middle of the variable. And then you'll know what solders to the next one on the wire you got left. So I'm going to go ahead and connect all the wires to this variable. Go ahead and mount it. And then put our ground on. If you got deep well sockets, it makes life so much easier. We'll do that and we'll be back. Alrighty. We got the variable installed. Got the wires soldered on in their proper places. I shortened the ground wire right here. We got the ground wire soldered to this can right here. Alright. If it would make you feel better, you can put your continuity meter on. Touch one wire, touch one lead to your ground. Touch the other lead to the can you want to solder. Hear that? It's direct ground. And there you go, your dead key variable is done. Only thing I need to do now is just take these wires right here, kind of push them down, make them a little bit more neater, tie strap them, do what I gotta do. Usually like to find this wire, this brown wire right here, and just tie strap down to that brown wire, and just you know, do what you have to do to make them look real neat. Alrighty, just to make another real quick mod that I like to do, adding a filter cap to the DC input. Real simple, get you a 4700 to a 10,000 microfarad cap, If you can find one that'll fit, the higher the better. Put your negative lead of the cap. This is very important too. You better make sure you get this right. Put your negative lead to the cap, to the right connector right here, and you'll see it's got black on it. And you can tell which one's your positive connector, because your positive connector will be hooked up to a choke down here. It'll be hooked up to a choke. So we've already got that 4700 microfarad cap added right there for filtering. Help with alternator whine, any kind of transient noises that are not supposed to be there. Well, have any questions, send me some comments, but there you go, dead key variable, done the proper way that I know how to do, and it works like a charm. Using this transistor keeps that load off this variable resistor. If you do it just a way of hooking to the cap with no variable resistor and all that, it puts a lot of load on these variable resistors up here, and it will blow out on you eventually. I've had it happen a lot of times. So that takes that off of it, and also makes the whole process way smoother. Gatekeeper and a variable voltage dead key variable. That's just what I like to call it. Gatekeeper style, and I got down and I'm good and gone.